Um, Straighten out my view over here. How do I do that?
Looking good today.
You as well, sir. Looking sharp. How did your last meeting go?
Went pretty well. I'm helping some people to sell their business and to buy businesses. Um,
Is that a franchise business, or what kind of business were you helping out today?
the one I'm selling is an independent business. It's a mobile windshield repair business out in the hill country.
That sounds like a pretty good business. What happened? Have
Yeah,
they had it for a while and they're moving on to new things, or now's a good time to
y-
sell?
yeah. It's seller motivations are a big deal, I think, for anybody who's thinking about buying a business. And
Yeah.
so the seller's motivations here are they're kind of getting old and tired, and they're the tech in the business.
Yeah.
And that's a common danger of when you're sort of in a self-employment situation. That person is getting a little bit old to be hauling windshields on and off cars all day long, and they're looking for somebody young and or ready to run their own show. So
That seems like one of those interesting little niche businesses.
yeah,
Niche is kind of the way to go. They say niches make riches. Is that is that true in your opinion? In what you found?
I think so. I've seen a lot of folks that a lot of concepts anywhere that they just focus on one little niche. Windshield repair is a good one. There's one that kind of surprised me, two that kind of surprised me that ended up being rookies of the year when I helped these folks get into business. One was
Rookie
dryer
of the
vent
year. I love
cleaning.
that.
Yeah, rookies of the year. That's how you know when it's a really good fit, is that these folks, really did the due diligence to find the right business that resonated with their skills and their goals. And this one guy, he was a hardware engineer at a semiconductor company, and he got into a dryer vent cleaning business, knocked it out of the park, did like 500,000 in revenue the first year. And this
Dryer vent
guy,
clean. That's such a genius business space as well, because it's something no one wants to do. It's hard to do if it's behind your washing machine, and it's actually kind of dangerous. So
yeah, it is. The number one cause of house fires is clogged dryer vents. And the way they build them nowadays, they all snake up through the walls, second story, and all that stuff.
yeah,
And if you go to an appliance store and have people install new appliances like that, they're not going to touch it. And a lot of people don't want to mess with it themselves. So it's actually a pretty cool niche business.
that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, tell me a little bit more about what's been going on for you this week. What's top of your mind?
Well, I'll tell you what. I don't think we kind of jumped right into things. Should we do a little introduction?
Yeah.
My name is Jake Cutler. I am the CEO and founder of Amplify in the fintech space, and my friend here.
I am Kyle, and I work as a franchise consultant and business broker in Austin, Texas.
And we are excited to be here. We are not only streaming on Reddit Live, we are also streaming. Where else are we today, Kyle?
We're on YouTube and LinkedIn as well.
And
So
this is a new progression for us. We are trying things out, and so that's a new platforms for us to stream to. But our interest is to come to Reddit and to come to LinkedIn and to talk about business and entrepreneurship and startup and motivations for doing business, and are hoping to get some engagement from the crowd. See what's interesting to you. See if there's anything you might want to discuss about business, about fintech, about startups. And we are very interested to answer your questions and are just kind of distance socializing and talking a little bit about business today. And you are welcome to join us.
So, Jake, who do you think is going to be most interested in what we have to say?
I mean, one of the original inspirations for us was being in the Reddit startup, Reddit entrepreneur ride along, and so I believe that
Mhm.
community is out there, definitely within Reddit. We know it's out there with LinkedIn, but can we tap into those users and get some people to come and engage with us on a podcast setting, on some kind of an interview setting? That is it's the big question we're trying to figure out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there's a lot of folks on LinkedIn, at least in my network, that I'm streaming to that are contemplating thinking about getting into business, but really have a lot of questions, and maybe some of them are existential, like is this really the thing that I want to be doing? So we're hoping to address some of those things, and I think some of the block and tackle stuff about especially I think on Jake, you notice in the entrepreneur and the startups, subreddits. There's a lot of online stuff and a lot of high tech, stuff, and that's kind of your space, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, and it'll be nice that we can both balance things out and share. We actually have a question from Dojo Disco. Dojo Disco wants to know your opinion, Kyle, on what are your thoughts on a 4-day working week? Can that work? And I'm happy to field that question as well. But do you want to kick off? What do you think?
Emphatically yes. In fact, I've been a proponent and a practicer of the 4-day work week for almost 30 years.
You
Um,
practice that yourself?
yeah, I do. I've been doing the four
Typical
day
work week
work
is a
week.
four day work week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now,
So,
is that kind of literal where you only work on 4 days of the week, or is it more like you work 30 hours but over 5 days? How does that work out? That's fascinating.
well, I try to do 4 days a week. So I start fresh on Monday and I go through Thursday. And a lot of times, like last Friday, I'll take the day off. Tomorrow I'm taking the day off on Friday. I call it a day off, but it's really about kind of focusing on balance. And
Kyle,
on those days that that we are
I
working, we're working full time.
I didn't know you could actually be so hardworking that you could work 4 hour weeks. So you started that a long time ago, and have you found that that's led to you having better performance overall and working more refreshed the other four
Yeah,
days of the
it
week?
has. I'm dating myself a little bit, but I started doing this in the mid '90s, and it was really kind of forced. I used to work in the Big Four consulting, management consulting industry, and a lot of times Friday was just a travel day for us, and this was kind of pre-internet, so there wasn't much to do, So I'd just take the day off, take off on Friday, and come back Monday morning. So we were doing 4-day work weeks back then, but we'd work about 10 hours a day, 10 to 12 a day when we were on the clock Monday through Thursday.
And is that
Um,
true now? Are you kind of working a more intense Monday through Thursday to allow for other?
um, you know, I don't know about you. It's I've been working at home for a long time, long before the pandemic. So I kind of it work and life tends to blend a little bit, but I try to do 9-hour days at work and then for 4 days a week. So what's that, 36 hours? And
Okay,
I'll squeeze a little bit in on Friday too. I try to round it out to 40 a week. Yeah.
that's fascinating. So you were way ahead of the curve. If only you'd thought way back then to write a book about it. Who knows? Who knows where you could be today?
I'd be
Now,
rich.
I'm also going to answer that question for Dojo Disco, and we really appreciate your question. And anyone who would be so kind to give us some upvotes, I'm not too proud to pander. I'm going to be a little bit of a hypocrite here because I work in a fintech startup, and I'm working 18-hour days, and I've been grinding on this for a long time. It's crazy being an entrepreneur in this kind of startup space, but I'm a big believer that should happen, and more countries, I think, over in Europe are choosing to do the kind of 4 hour work weeks. Did you see in the news that there was a law in one or two countries over in Europe where your boss isn't allowed to contact you like after 5:30 in the
Yeah,
morning?
I saw that last week. Didn't that go into effect in Belgium or someplace like that? I
I think
like
you're
that. I like that, and I've been running my own business for so long that I haven't really been subject to what seems to me to be a pretty painful experience to be texted and pinged late at night. Um, and so I think that could be a stressor, and I like people putting boundaries up. Um, you know,
throwaway Jaw Payne says that he drinks four days a week. Does that
I hope
does,
water,
does,
coffee.
does Hey, so speaking of coffee, can I tell you a little story? I joined a group. I
Yeah.
don't know if you've heard of them, Kyle. Are you familiar with 1 million cups?
No, what's that?
So there's a national organization who was kind enough to have me over this morning. A little bit like Toastmasters. You know Toastmasters?
Yes.
So it's more like pitching practice. It's not really aggressive. They're really laid back, but there's an audience of 20, 25 people that will listen to your pitch. There was another gentleman there who was pitching his services, helping people set up Notion. Do you know Notion?
Yeah.
Notion's just a project management kind of platform, and he comes into small businesses and helps them just make Notion easier. He does that more than actually setting up Notion, but 1 million cups was kind enough to have me on this morning, and that's just a way to pitch your business and promote. And that was a great experience.
So did you get to practice pitch then with them?
Yes, I did my investor pitch, and I think there were some investors in the audience, but it's not like a hardcore. investor pitching event. So people can pitch all kinds of things. But it's an interesting experience and a good experience and a good group of people.
Sounds like a pitch fest almost. So what kind of feedback did you get?
Um, I actually there's a question and answer period, and I didn't get as many questions as I was expecting. I think my fintech product was a little bit out of their usual space.
Mm,
But I had fun, met some wonderful people. Actually, one of the gentlemen who runs it was talking this morning about. I think I think he was talking about LinkedIn doing kind of a clubhouse style talking space, and that obviously
yeah.
grabbed my attention. I mentioned that Reddit Talk is doing the same thing, and that we were doing some Reddit live streaming, and so I may connect with him and see if we could see if we can get him on the show and ask him some questions, interview him.
I'm curious. Have you ever used Clubhouse?
I never did the clubhouse thing. It was very popular, I think, about a year ago,
Hmm.
and it was kind of invite only at the time. I think it was also only an Apple product for a while. I never jumped in there. What about yourself?
I didn't, mainly because I didn't have any Apple products until this year. So I finally did get an invite from a fellow entrepreneur, um, and I dabbled in it a little bit, but I haven't done anything serious yet. I think I like the video format because you could take something like this and turn it into a podcast, but Clubhouse was just audio only. So I don't know. I like the nonverbal communication that goes along with this.
Dojo Disco has a very specific question that's a little bit out of my space, but with Google moving more into various spaces such as hotel, flight, and listings, along with competing against big players, how does a startup survive in organic search? Um, so, organic search and SEO is a little bit out of my space, but it's a good point that Google is kind of working to take over the world. They do have a competitive advantage. There's been more lawsuits about Google and their competitive advantage over in Europe than there has been here in the United States. But part of my go-to-market strategy, personally, with our fintech, is that the world is changing, automation is coming, and it's better to be a part of that than left behind by it. So I think now is your time to embrace SEO and to get involved with cutting-edge automations as much as possible, so that you can stay part of those algorithms. And jumping to spaces like Reddit Live and LinkedIn may be one answer to keep yourself out in the space. What do you think,
Yeah,
Kyle? Do you have any takes on SEO or anything?
I do. I think of it as one tool in the marketing toolkit, and this is another one. And when it comes to Google, it's gotten to the point where you can't really even show up unless you pay to show up, which is, kind of a reality, kind of a problem. I'm not here to, cast judgment on that, but that's the way it is. And so I do SEO. In fact, on another window here, I'm looking at my dashboard for my pay-per-click programs that I'm doing on a monthly basis. But quite frankly,
Would
there
you
isn't
be?
any
That's
substitute
actually
for
really interesting, to me,
relationship
Kyle.
building.
Sorry to cut you off. Um, would you be open to talk a little bit about what you're doing on pay per click and like how much you put towards it and how effective it is? And are you using Google for pay per click or
I
Facebook
am.
or?
Yeah, I'm using Google for pay-per-click. I pay a company a nominal fee every month to manage it for me, and then what I do is I put in a budget. So right now I have an $800 a month budget for pay-per-click, and
That seems
so
pretty
far
substantial. It's not big. It's not small.
it's not. Yeah, it's not small by any means. I've so far I've burned through about half of that, and I choose keywords. So I want to be, and I choose also. I define it by counties. So I have two counties, Travis and Williamson County in Texas. I choose like half a dozen keywords that have franchise or consultant in them in some way, and then people click through. I've gotten one response so far that's led to a meeting. If I can do that, once a month or once every couple of months, I'd consider it a win and be worth it. Um,
So do you feel like you're getting the return on the investment for the 800 a month then? So
I
you
do
might
not,
not get a return on that for 2 or 3 months, but you might get one thing that kind of helps
yeah,
to make it worthwhile.
it's a program that I just started in 2022 along with this. So, I like you, I imagine that you would probably, expect some sort of return for the effort that you put into anything regarding much more personalized engagement, like video, where it takes more time.
I
But
would
in
also
pay-per-click, it takes more money.
I would also say to Dojo Disco that if you are a heavy Reddit user, and I don't know what you're trying to sell, but it does sound like hotel flight kind of space, don't underestimate the pay per click on Reddit. It can be pretty accurate. It can be more affordable than Google, where you don't have to put in as big of a budget, but you have to be sure that your market space is there and do your research on the subreddits. I would also make another recommendation to Dojo Disco. Kyle, you ever use Fiverr or Upwork?
No, I haven't. I
I
know
would recommend
people
a
that
Dojo
have.
Disco. You can probably go on, if you have the patience, to go to Fiverr and find people who support SEO internationally. You could probably find some people that are willing to work really hard at much less of a price and more value than some of the people you might find to do SEO partnership here in the States. So that would be one recommendation for taking a stab at that.
Yeah, there's a lot of folks who specialize in SEO. So
A lot of
I'm
folks
I'm paying a
specialize.
little extra to, put more money into it than time, and I've decided to put more time than money into the video. But all of these are forms of marketing in a way. But what we're doing here, I think, is much more engaging, and I don't think there's any substitute for relationship development. Ultimately, that makes good business.
I would agree with that, but I would also rate you as, from what I've learned in the time that we've known each other, as more technical than most. So your ability to get onto a Google and set up a Google program, I think there's some small businesses out there where the owners may not have as much, ability to dig in and learn that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's true. However, the service that I'm using requires no technical skill at all, and there are
Yeah.
many of them that are out there, and they're really designed to sort of run interference for people who don't understand the tech, but do want the outcomes that the tech can provide for you. And I think there's value in that.
It's very valuable. So you're over on LinkedIn. I don't have view to that. Do you also have can people chat with you over on LinkedIn or anything like that?
They can, and I haven't seen any chats coming in yet. Um,
And just so
but
our viewers understand, I am actually live streaming through the Reddit OBS, but Kyle is using a platform called Restream, in which
mhm.
you connect to both LinkedIn and YouTube. So we're streaming across those channels. And any indication of, do we have any watchers over on that side?
I don't have the answer for that at the moment.
That's all right.
We'll say
We're
no.
still learning. We're novices.
Yeah,
We're looking to
this
learn
is
and find out.
every year, every session is an experiment, and what I'm finding is that we have some things that improve and some things we're finding the right mix. And the mix that I think is missing right now is I'm not getting instant feedback on LinkedIn like I would if I was using OBS.
So one thing I notice is really good at promoting itself on Reddit is a lot of the music. There's a lot of musicians. There's some cooking on there that goes pretty well. And I noticed you have a lot of instruments in the background. Do you have what's going on? Is that your son or yours or?
That's mine. Yeah, we have a band. I'm actually in a music studio. It's a music studio, radio station, consulting office, all in one, slash man cave. But yeah, we play a little music. That's mainly for fun. Just you got to have that creative outlet, right?
It's a little off topic because we were supposed to be a business chat. But what kind of music do you play? You grabbed my curiosity.
Oh, everything from rock to soul to country to polka. You name
Yeah,
it. It's we're a cover band for sure. Uh, we we call ourselves a racket club, like because we make a racket. We do a live show. We usually have a couple hundred people show up every year. We just do it once on Halloween for the neighborhood, and it's a good time. We've been doing that for about 10 years,
that's awesome.
and yeah, it's really good. Yeah, you probably noticed that because in prior weeks I'd had a green screen up with a blue background, and I don't know, in a fit of pique, I decided to just tear it all out and try something else, for our streams. So a little bit of an experiment, a little bit of authenticity. I'm letting a little air out of the crazy balloon, so to speak here.
I think authenticity is good. Any other questions around business, entrepreneur, startups is welcome. And Kyle, any other topics that you want to shoot into and discuss today? What were you thinking?
Well, you got me thinking, talking about all those hours that you're working. And I get concerned for you, man. I want you to get a good night's sleep. You probably have a family too, and spend some time with them. Do you work at home? How do you find the balance?
It's been a while since I've been able to find a good work-life balance, and I mean, theoretically, I'm supposed to be working towards, being in a place where I can have more of a work-life balance. Something that really impacted me that I read earlier this year was just a quote that said, true wealth is discretionary time, and I have very little discretionary time, and not spending enough time with the kids. So, I do want to get to a place where we can reach an inflection point with this company that we're looking to launch as a fintech startup, and I do want to get it out there. We have made a ton of progress in the last few months, but yeah, when I hear your story working the 4-day work week, um, I think you're living the dream. Plus, you've managed to do that for 20 years. You've done very well. It's very impressive.
I wasn't always like that.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of long nights, especially when my son was much younger. I was burning the candle at both ends, and I had to make a conscious decision to what am I going to have at the end of my life? I'm going to have time and memories, or I'm going to have more money. And I kind of chose the time route a little bit. Um, I'll leave money on the table and in order to get a good night's sleep, I guess. And what I found is that it's been really good for my health. And
Well, I think in addition to that, though, when you look back, life is about experience. It isn't all about the money. Um, that was pointed out to me when I was in Europe at one point that they had a little bit of a jaded belief that entrepreneurship in America was all about getting rich. And there's something to be said for entrepreneurship and businesses that are focused on giving you a good life and your
yeah,
family a good life, and helping other people and employees to have a good life as well. Um, and
yeah,
that can get lost. You can get lost in the mission of starting a business and running a business.
you can. And that was kind of how I was curious, like, what was your path? I guess I imagine that if you're, working through pitches, um, getting ready to raise money. That's to be able to hire people to delegate so that you can focus more on being a CEO rather than chief cook and bottle washer. Is that the case?
Yeah, I've kind of like 3 or 4 full-time jobs. One is supposed to be business development, which I don't get enough time for, and I'm trying to rectify that. Another is to pitch and raise money, and that's kind of a full-time job. And another is to, continue to manage building a fintech platform. And to try to do all three at once is pretty crazy. But it's a common theme in this space and in the startup space that
Yeah.
every entrepreneur, particularly at early stages, feels like they have too much to do and they just need three of them. So I'm not alone in being in that space. But I think that the startup environment and that side of the entrepreneur space is interesting. There's once you kind of scratch the surface and get into it, there's kind of a whole world into itself that I didn't know about for many years.
Yeah. There's a few ways to resolve this. I see a core problem is there's too much to do, not enough time and people to do it, right? And so you're taking one path to solve that problem, which is to raise money for on the back of an MVP, right, and be able to hire more people to do stuff. I've seen other people do it by selling something and then and bootstrapping, essentially just hiring contractors and trying to variabilize their labor costs to get things done. You mentioned Fiverr and Upwork and things like that. That's one way that you can do that, is to contract out if you're more of a
Fiverr,
bootstrap.
Fiverr and Upwork are great resources, and I've had less luck at Upwork. I think there tend to be more substantial people there that charge more.
Yeah.
Fiverr, depending on what you're looking to have done, there's pretty easy access to people, particularly if you have the patience to work with people internationally. For me, there's been some great resources there that have knocked out some projects for me.
Yeah. I wish that I'd had that resource when I was starting my first business. It was much more difficult to find people to do stuff. Fortunately, Austin was very tech heavy, so I found them eventually. But you know, the third way, there's a third way, and that is to have the franchise actually build a lot of the stuff for you, so you plug in and focus. Most often is on a business development role, right? I mean, often that's the owner's highest and best use of time, is to be sort of the cheerleader and chief revenue officer in a way in the beginning. And I find that people who take the franchise route, instead of trying to raise money or instead of trying to bootstrap an independent, the systems are already there, so there's less work to be done,
Do
and
you
can
meet a
be.
lot of duos on the franchise side? I mean, are there a lot of like father son, mother daughter, husband wife that come looking to start up businesses, or is it more
Yeah,
individual?
Yeah, there's it's I wouldn't say it's the majority at all. But yes, often people, when an owner is starting a franchise, often what they're going to want is a general manager, and it's somebody that they can trust, and so I've seen a lot of father-daughter, a couple of father-daughter, a couple of husband and wife, a couple of brothers. My brother and I did that with one franchise once many years ago, about 10 years ago. You have somebody that you can trust who, you can split the work, right? Somebody can focus on sales, somebody can focus on operations, and between the two of you, you can get it done. But most people, what I see is they'll come in as an owner role, manage a manager, and basically be in charge of business development and revenue generation, and then have a manager
Would you
manage
do
the
it
team.
again? Would you work with your brother tomorrow?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So you had a good experience. It worked out well on the franchise that you guys worked on previously.
Oh yeah, and if the funny thing is that type of experience can either really cement a relationship or tear it apart. But for us, it just
I
brought us even
imagine there's
closer.
less of the in between. It'll tell you a lot about your relationship getting into business with someone.
Yeah. Well, it's I got fortunate. I had a good. I even had my mom in that business too for a little while on the back, working on some of the back end stuff, and
So
it just
you are a smart operator. You are a good operator. So
I
if
got
you
lucky.
you work for yourself, so there's no reason, and you're very successful. There's no reason your business was going to shut down. But if your business suddenly wasn't available tomorrow, how would you start your journey
Wow,
in trying
that's
to
a good
start a new
question,
business or find the right franchise for the next chapter of your life?
man. Um, I would focus, and again, the basis of my answer has to do with lifestyle. I love being home for dinner. I don't want to travel a whole lot. I don't want to work 20 hours a night, a day. So I'd probably do something that's community oriented, something that everybody needs, that's pretty obvious that people just buy over and over again. It could be, franchise, independent or not. I'd be blowing insulation in people's houses, or running a cleaning business, or doing graphics, or cost reduction for local businesses, or executive coaching, something like that. There's so many things that are out there that people just need all the time. that's
And
that's probably what I
those things
do.
all sound kind of like scalable.
They could be, yeah, because I don't know how to do any of those technical things, but I would immediately start searching for people to do it. No matter what the solution was, it would be about building a team. And I think that's the key to scalable wealth. But it's also about, for me, having a lifestyle, and being home for dinner and doing my fun things on weekends. So, what about you? What would you do if Amplified was just didn't exist tomorrow?
Um, that is a good question because now that I've gone out on this kind of entrepreneur journey and startup journey, it would be very, very difficult to go back to work for anyone else. I don't think I could do it. I don't think I could really do that again. Definitely not back into like a corporate world or space.
No,
But
I'm
part
with
of the
you.
reason I did get into this was to have a better lifestyle, and I've had the opposite effect because I'm buried with things to do to launch the business. But I would like to get more into that lifestyle space. But I agree with you that something like because I actually recently had the insulation blown into my attic and my walls a week ago, and that guy is so busy at the moment. Um,
Yeah,
and it just comes back to you and how busy you can be and how good your marketing can be, and you could apply those skills to just about anything.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, the CEO role is really what you're signing up for when you're running a business, as you know. And that has ultimately very little to do with whatever the technicians are doing. But if you're good at building a team and motivating them, I think you can allow your mind to be open to all sorts of solutions. I mean, business ultimately is just solving a need in exchange for money, right? And understanding people is really the heart of it. There's a little bit of math too, but
That
um,
is very true. Kyle, we're coming up on half past the hour, and I wanted to say two things. One, I've really enjoyed my time with you as usual. And two, we do have a few watchers. Are there any last questions about business or comments about entrepreneurship, startup, motivations for doing business? If anyone wants to throw that into the chat on Reddit or to give us any upvotes before they go. It's greatly appreciated. And any final
Yep.
thoughts for the day?
Yeah, I would. For those on YouTube and LinkedIn, um, if you would give some feedback on this video, and then our goal, of course, is to be a little more interactive while it is live, so that we can address questions. And again, we're working through all the kinks to make this as informative and entertaining as possible. And we appreciate your time, and we hope to see you again. We're going to do this every Wednesday, 11 Central, noon Eastern. So it's BizWiz, and we look for more input.
We will be back with the BizWiz podcast and business chat, and appreciate you guys coming back to see more. We also appreciate your feedback on the content, what you might like to see, if you'd like to see it, and we look forward to seeing you all again. Thank
All
you.
right. Have a great day.